Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So huge news dropped yesterday and today regarding and involving Donald Trump. First, Trump is suing Hillary Clinton, the Democratic National Committee, and 45 other people and entities. Clearly, this is an attempt to deflect attention away from the second bit of news, which is that a Manhattan DA prosecutor specifically stated in his resignation letter that he believed Trump committed multiple felonies for which he could have been indicted. So first, let's talk about this ridiculous, look over there, oh, a squirrel move by Trump. So the lawsuit alleges that the defendants, quote, orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience and is an affront to this nation's democracy. In a nutshell, Trump is claiming that Clinton and the others took part in a conspiracy to prevent him from winning in 2016. And he claims that it costs him over $24 million to defend himself against their allegations of Russian collusion. I don't know what he would have spent that money on. I mean, nobody was suing him, but okay. So he's seeking repayment of the $24 million. And then he also, on top of that, wants compensation in the form of damages for, quote, the loss of existing and future business opportunities for himself, the Trump campaign, and the Trump organization. This is a guy who's raking in money. He's practically printing money from his supporters who still believe him, even though nothing he has said has come to pass, or his minions like, Looney Lindell, but they're still sending him money. But, he's been damaged. He's been damaged, you guys. He was damaged a long time ago, I would say. And that's how we got here. Anyway, he wants a jury trial, and he claims that he has sustained, quote, significant injuries and damages. And he claims that those injuries and damages are ongoing. He's still being injured and damaged, you guys. Poor thing. He truly is the snowiest and most delicate of snowflakes. When they call him Trumple Thinskin, it is so fitting. I mean, the guy is pathetic. He's so weak. Oh my God. So if the assigned judge doesn't laugh this out of court, then I just don't know what to think, because this is so obviously a deflection and just BS. It is total bullshit. Like I said, this is a blatant move. This is to refocus attention away from his many cases, his potential criminal liability. And also, by the way, gee, is this a coincidence? The January 6th Select Committee is getting ready to launch their televised hearings, I believe, in the next week or so. I think they said like around the beginning of April. And Congresswoman Liz Cheney had recently announced that Trump could face criminal charges in regard to his alleged actions, on January 6th and surrounding that domestic terrorist attack at the Capitol. But let's take a look at what probably caused him to file that lawsuit today. As you all likely know, there were two heavy hitter prosecutors who were hired by the former Manhattan DA, Cy Vance. They were hired to investigate potential crimes committed by Trump and his eponymous organization. One of those prosecutors was Mark Pomerantz. This is a guy who literally prosecuted the mob, who charged people with racketeering, took down people who were said to be, like Donald Trump, unprosecutable. They just couldn't be taken down. He stayed on and he continued to investigate even after Vance retired. And then a man named Alvin Bragg took over as the district attorney. But Pomerantz and another senior prosecutor recently and very abruptly resigned from the case, and all grand jury activity had halted. So nobody knew why. Everybody was suspicioning, and there were rumors out there. Well, now we know why. In a resignation letter written by Pomerantz, this has been leaked now to the New York Times. This was from Pomerantz to the new DA. Alvin Bragg. He wrote, quote, "The team that has been investigating Mr. Trump harbors no doubt about whether he committed crimes. He did." Pomerantz also wrote that Trump's financial statements were false and that he lied about his assets to, quote, "banks, the national media, counterparties, and many others, including the American people." And he said that he and the other prosecutors believed that there was more than sufficient evidence to prove Trump's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And, quote, "We believe that the prosecution would prevail if charges were brought and the matter were tried to an impartial jury." Pomerantz also stated, quote, "Whatever the risks of bringing the case may be, I am convinced that a failure to prosecute will pose much greater risks in terms of public confidence in the administration of justice." He did try to cut Bragg some slack, though. He said, quote, "A decision made in good faith may nevertheless be wrong." And then he noted that the former DA had directed Pomerantz and the other prosecutors to indict Trump and, quote, "other defendants as soon as reasonably possible." In fact, the New York Times indicated that an indictment and the charges were probably mere weeks away when Vance left the office, when he left his position as the DA. And Pomerantz told the new DA, quote, "I and others believe that your decision not to authorize prosecution now will doom any future prospects that Mr. Trump will be prosecuted for the criminal conduct we have been investigating." In addition, and this is probably the most telling statement of those that were quoted by the New York Times, he wrote, quote, "Respect for the rule of law and the need to reinforce the bedrock proposition that no man is above the law require that this prosecution be brought even if a conviction is not certain." So that kind of gives the game away right there, right? I mean, obviously Bragg is afraid of losing such a high-profile case right after he took office. Either that, or he's using that as an excuse not to pursue an indictment, and maybe there's some other more nefarious reason for it. This was my fear, guys. This is exactly what I feared when Vance announced that he was stepping down, because you just don't know what and who you're going to get. And when you factor in politics, and you factor in ego, not wanting to be the new guy who potentially takes an L right when he starts, right when he takes office, it's not good. So we'll see what happens, but someone clearly wanted this information out there, probably to put pressure on Bragg's office. Whether or not it was Pomerantz, I don't know. He's not saying. The other guy who stepped down is not saying. They won't give any statements at all. Bragg's office is saying, "Oh, this is an ongoing investigation, so we can't comment." But I want to circle back to the first bit of news about Trump's lawsuit against Clinton and the others. Think about how much hypocrisy there is, what a sociopath this guy has to be to include the sentence in his lawsuit that his critics and his opponent orchestrated, think about this, quote, "orchestrated an unthinkable plot, one that shocks the conscience and is an affront to this nation's democracy." This is a guy who literally inspired and incited a violent, aggressive, deadly terrorist attack on our nation's capital because his itty bitty ego is so fragile that he can't handle the fact that 80 million plus Americans despise him. That he can't handle or accept the fact that we would all be willing to vote for Joe frickin' Biden, who most of us didn't want, just to see Trump gone. just to not have to look at that orange crusted punchable face of his and hear his annoying voice anymore. This is a guy who continues to lie about the election and to whip his fanatics into such a state that they brought weapons, they brought restraints and gallows to the Capitol. They chanted about hanging his vice president. Talk about the pot calling the kettle black. We have put up with so much crazy shit from him for the past 6 to 7 years. We're like that frog who doesn't realize that we're being boiled, you guys. We really need to take a step back and honestly remember just how dangerous and divisive this man is. And it's almost a bad thing that he's not on Twitter anymore, because that would remind everyone on a daily basis. He is a cult leader. He is a cult leader who is completely devoid of any normal human emotion or empathy. And he will literally do anything, hurt anyone to get what he wants. We cannot forget that. We can't forget that. And he must never, ever be allowed to hold power again in this country. With his age, hopefully we don't have to worry about it for too long. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and listening, guys. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.